to get them all sorted out so that we could have all these great races. But it's a tough job to do as the top teams are just separated. As you can see, there's going to be another 34 teams lining up here. Astronaut, the one with the best team average, they have a time of 17:18. Boone comes in with a time of 17:20.58. St. Thomas Aquinas, a team average of 17:14.90. Individually, we're going to be looking at a few runners. Martin Ahlstrom of St. Thomas Aquinas, he's run 16:05 this year. Alejandro Barrio of University, he's run 16:07. Kaleb Collins of Choctawhatchee, that's a senior who's run 1:54.48 for the 800 meters, 4:29 and 9:33. He comes in with a best of 16:15.80. Let's see, Connor Brooks from Boca Raton. He's the senior, has a best of 16:20. Grant Chastain of Fort Walton Beach, he has a best of 16:17.80. Roberto Leon, we'll see if he runs. He runs for Bellin. He was on their state championship team last year. I mentioned he's a senior, and has a best of 16:17.90. But we'll see which race he ran, because as I said, Bellin has a very deep team. I'm not sure if he made the cut for this race.
So we're off and running right now in the boys select division. And, this is so cool because now the athletes that saw the elite division that are running now, they get to compare themselves to the athletes that ran earlier this morning. So the boys select division, several teams that you need to take a look at, especially from the Central Florida area. Boone High School out of downtown Orlando, they're coming in, and you'll see them in their orange singlets. And then you'll also see Olympia, which is in the western portion of Orlando near Disney, and also University, which is by UCF. So a lot of the Central Florida teams are running in the select division.
And then that shot we saw Clayton Knight of Vanguard, one of the top runners there with the V. So sorry to interrupt you there.
That's okay, partner. I'm looking at right now, we're coming down the hill, and it looks like several athletes right now. I see the young man from Olympia. He's now currently in 6th. And keep an eye on Connor Brooks from Boca Raton. I think he's going to make some noise this morning. And Jeremy Duque of Northport, I think he is now leading in the race. And now they're coming down the hill.
Yeah, and we'll try to get an idea of them as they go whisking by. The temperature's starting to warm up just a bit, but the sun is not directly on them.
And Vanguard looks really strong on the inside. Coach James Travieso of Ocala Vanguard has done a great job as well with his team over the past several years. And Travieso ran for the Knights of UCF. He was a quarter miler and an 800-meter runner, so he's using the experience of being a runner himself to train his girls and his boys teams at Ocala Vanguard.
And then we see the shot at the 0.7 mile mark there as we have our leaders coming through. And it's not as big a pack as we've seen in the other races, so we can tell that the pace is probably pretty quick here. So a lot of adrenaline on this first mile, as it is a very gentle mile, probably the easier of all part of mile of the three, because it does not have the hill in it. So we'll get that first mile split there.
For the boys Elite 5K will start in just 10 minutes at the stage. There in the Jumbotron, you can see your leaders.
And you can see Martin Ahlstrom there from St. Thomas Aquinas with a distinctive A on their jerseys.
And the farthest point east on the course, at which point they'll turn north into the Piney Woods.
And Bellin also has a B team, and Columbus has a B team, and so that's the depth of those two teams.
Both teams coming out of the Miami-Dade region, and I can tell you that there really is not much of a love loss between those two teams. The rivalry has become rather intense over the past decade. Miami-Columbus has always been a strong force down in the South Florida region, and Balin Jesuit, as we know, they have been extremely successful up here in Tallahassee, winning several state titles. And on top of that, having two teams from the South Florida area coming up here in the North Florida region says a lot about their training and a lot about their coaching as well. So I'm excited to see both teams up here in Tallahassee making some noise representing the South Florida area.
And you could see Bellin there with their jerseys. As people are getting mug shots there for the races. It's very easy to do in the first part of the race where you're feeling good and the adrenaline's going, but we'll be approaching the 1.6 mile mark here, or the 1.6 meter mark, or the mile mark here for these runners as they make their way on the backstretch. If we can get switched over to that view, we'll have a good shot of them coming through as we see the huge pack here. There's another one of your Olympia runners,
right,
from your part of the woods,
yes,
Doug.
And you know what's so, and it may not be the most appropriate thing to say, but it's fun to see the athletes having a good time out here on the course. It may not be the most appropriate thing to say, but it's nice to see that they are having a grand old time here in Tallahassee.
And a nice pack. That's probably like 7 runners across there. As
yes.
We have Astronaut. We're looking for their jerseys. They also have A's on their jerseys, I believe. Boone, St. Thomas Aquinas, Lake Mary, Vero Beach also entered in this race. And Fort Walton Beach, those are your top teams, so we'll be looking for those jerseys near the front.
And now we're approaching the 5-minute 15 mark at the 1.8K.
And our leader, well, they have it as Devin Mikowski, but it can't be Devin Mikowski because he just ran. Unless he jumped in this race too. No, but it's going to be Anthony Herrera of St. Thomas Aquinas. He's out in 4:54. Grant Chastain of Fort Walton Beach, 4:54.5. Martin Alstrom of St. Thomas Aquinas, 4:54.6. Caleb Collins of Choctawhatchee, 4:54.6, and Alejandro Barrio of University, 4:54.7, as you see them scrolling through.
And you get the team scores, and look how strong Balin Jesuit is. They already won the Elite Division, and now they're leading in the Select Division with 107 points. So you know their depth is there. Fort Walton Beach over by the Pensacola area at 215 points. Lake Mary just north of Orlando at 242 points, and St. Thomas Aquinas out of Fort Lauderdale at 267 points, and Vero Beach just south of the
one
Space
thing
Coast.
about this race that's panning out that's a little bit different is they're running as a pack, so that kind of gives you some motivation and something to work with. And if you're working together, maybe not going out as fast, the 4:54, but if you start equating that down, that's 14:45 through 3 miles, and that's a 15:30. 15-20 range. So they're out quickly, but they're running together. So that gives me the idea that they are running fit and they're running comfortably. We'll see if that's the case after this hill, though.
And like you mentioned, Ricky, that the weather has warmed up quite a bit, and we'll see how the athletes adjust based on the temperature. It's a beautiful day here in Tallahassee. No clouds at all. No clouds. It's a beautiful day, beautiful morning. Probably in the mid-60s, heading into the 70s at this juncture.
And one thing I have to say about the weather is we talked to the great miler, Marty LaCory, about this, and he talked about the Florida weather. It's reading 58 degrees right now, but he said when he would train there in Gainesville, Florida, and then he would switch over to Europe, he'd be running terribly and having horrible workouts in the Florida heat, but then he'd go over to Europe and run fantastic and run his best times ever. So when the temperatures drop like this, it's definitely a big benefit for these athletes, as they are not used to running. You run at 3 o'clock after school, 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and deal with this, and then they come to something that's 20 degrees cooler, and then the humidity is very low here today.
Exactly, and no matter where you live in Florida, whether you are running in the morning or in the afternoon, the heat and the humidity is always going to be a factor.
And there we see Fort Walton Beach. I think that's there. Clayton Knight's moving up very nicely. I was hoping that he would run well. He's on the cusp of being a great runner, as Steve Hassan was from Vanguard, who went on to run 8:52 and run for the University of Florida. Trying to get an eyeballs on some of the other runners up there at the front. Clayton Knight moving the best there out of that group.
Look at the team scores here. We have Balin Jesuit at 107 points and Fort Walton Beach at 215. Wow, what a separation that is between the two. And Lake Mary coming in at 242 points. But, boy, am I impressed with Balin Jesuit, the B team, with 107 points against some really tough competition in the select division.
Connor Brooks looking very good from Boca Raton as we get a close-up shot there. I believe that's Kaleb Hollins, also of Choctawhatchee, up there up front. As they come by our view, you get a shot of the top of the hill. If we swing down to the bottom of the hill, we can see them coming down the course.
And that's the young man from University High School with the hat. He is your leader.
And that's Alejandro Barrio. That's Boca Raton's Connor Brooks, moving well right now. Clayton Knight's also in there. Lake Mary's Price Wheeler. And there goes the Balin Jesuit juggernaut. Their top three running together. They've broken up their pack a little bit, as the next mark we'll see is the 2 mile as they go past the Jumbotron here on this shot that you're seeing. We'll switch over to the next shot, which will be the 2 mile mark as they come up the hill here.
One thing I noticed, Ricky, in this particular race is that the runners need to take advantage of the tangent. Notice that our lead runner, Barrio, out of University, was running way, way outside, so he's not running to his advantage.
There you see the top three, Alejandro Barrio, 10:11.3. Kaleb Collins, the 154 half-miler. You don't want to be in a foot race with him the last bit. As he's at 10:11.5. He's really turned it on. A diamond in the rough, Kaleb Hollins of Choctawhatchee. Clayton Knight's battling up there, 10:12, the junior out of Ocala Vanguard. Kennard Willard of Vero Beach also running well, 10:13.0. He's moving best of them all, moved up 4 places in the 5:14.9. He has the fastest 2 mile of all the top 4. Anthony Herrera of St. Thomas Aquinas, 10:13.1. So still a close race as we have 9 runners within 6 seconds of each other. Anything can happen here.
Absolutely, and the top 10 have dipped under 10:20 at the 2 mile mark. And Barrio of University with the blue hat on is trying to fight off the other 2 athletes and going into the bend of the course. And we're at 11 minutes and 18 seconds right now into the race. And Balin Jesuit, their B team, at 86 points.
And amazing here for Barrios. He only finished 44th last year, and look at him pushing the pace. He's going to get under 16 minutes. He's 16:07 best this year. He ran 16:34.60 last year to finish 44th in the 4A, and he's pushing the pace at the top. Kaleb Collins, he finished 18th of the 3A boys of 16:25, so they're going to go well under that. Again, as I mentioned, a 154.48 for the 800 meters. And then Clayton Knight of Vanguard, the junior, he was 14th in 3A in the 3200 and 9:43, having a great race, 20th in the cross country in 3A in 16:25. We'll see if he can hold it together.
When I spoke to the university coach, Coach Friday, in regards to Barrio, Coach Friday said that this young man has untapped potential. So we'll see how he does toward the end of the race. But Coach Friday has a lot of faith in Barrio. And Barrio right now is looking really strong in this morning's select division.
And there's so much talent on walking through those halls, and they've done a great job, coaches, identifying that talent as they are moving very hard. They're running so aggressively there.
And Balin Jesuit still your team leader at 86 points. Quite impressive. And Fort Walton Beach now has moved up into second at 226, and Lake Mary at 257.
And there you see Belin's top runners coming into view there. That's Daniel Legatos, Charles Carreno, Marco Preguez, their top 3 coming through. So we're at 10:11, so we extrapolate that out. That's going to be, what, 15, 16 at 3 miles, add 30, 40 seconds. So they're right under 16-minute pace. They just have to put it together and hold it together. And they have company here, so they're battling for that title.
Absolutely.
Barrios looks fantastic. I like the cap. That shows a lot of style, a lot of confidence there. Maybe he'll toss the hat like Filbert Bailly used to do on the indoor circuit back in the day. when he's ready to throw it down. So we'll see if he's able to do that.
And I think you mentioned to me, Ricky, that Dave Waddle's cap from the 1972 Olympics is in some museum, if I'm not mistaken.
That's
because
right.
He wore his cap in the Munich Olympics and won the gold medal in the 800 meters.
Yeah, and they just had a celebration of his race, the 50th anniversary of his win at the 1972 Olympics, September 17th up at Bowling Green, and they gave out the hats. Not the original, but they gave out hats in memory of that fantastic run.
And so, fans, if you're out there listening and watching, you may want to go on YouTube to check out that race in the Munich Games of Dave Waddle's 800-meter performance. It's incredible.
And they have a special on the Olympic Channel as well. As we see the battle, we're going to go to the top of the hill here in just a moment to see the race battle between Barrios. And it looks like Kaleb Hollins is turning on that 800-meter speed.
Yes, he has.
Clayton Knight's fallen back, but he's trying to nail down this. Kaleb Hollins is someone you want to watch. He's ran 154.48 during the AAU Junior Olympics this past summer. And he's running cross country, 16:25. Can you imagine what he's going to do with this base behind him? And look at him go.
This race is not over. It is not over.
Hammering. Here comes Clayton Knight and Barrios. They're challenging each other. This is a great race, 15:09, 15:10. This is going to be a big breakthrough for Clayton Knight and Barrios and Hollins as they make their way down this finish line hill. This is the best I've seen Clayton Knight run. And look at these guys. They're rolling on the back.
They are rolling.
200 meters to go now.
They're really digging deep. Some of them have left maybe a little too much in the tank. As you see Martin Hallstrom of St. Thomas Aquinas. But Kaleb Hollins blasting away that 154 speed. I'm not sure if the other runners knew how quick he was, but he's showing out here. 15:48, 15:49. 15:54 for Kaleb Hollins.
Outstanding race by Kaleb.
He improves over his time of 16:15. Remember, last year he was 16:25.
So your times right now, Hollins of Choctaw at 15:53, Knight of Vanguard at 15:57.7, Herrera of St. Thomas Aquinas